Hey there, welcome back to Startup Screen Printing. My name is Jesse. I've got something different for you guys today. Not a how-to like I've been doing, but I recently picked up a Riley Hopkins 150 press for a live print demonstration that I'm doing. Something small, it's just at my daughter's school, offered to do it for her class. I'm gonna let all the kids print their own shirt, so they're super excited about it. They came up with their own class design, and so we'll get that ready and do that next week. But I thought it might be fun to just video putting this thing together. It's a pretty simple assembly, it looks like. So I just wanted to show you guys how to do it in case you are just getting started and you want to put together the 150 press, or you want to get the 150 press. It is a great starter press. It's super inexpensive. There are some other single location, single arm, single press options out there. But I've just always used Riley Hopkins stuff, so I just went with this one. It is the least expensive of all the options, so decided to give it a try. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is put together the feet. That is these pieces right here, and we're just going to add these to the bottom here with the gap facing in towards each other. So we have two of these. We've got the larger, longer side facing down. That's what's got the mounting holes in it. And we got four bolts that are going these already tapped holes here that the nuts are kind of built into this arm. And so we don't need an additional side. We're just gonna put these down in. And then it did come with some mounting screws. They're pretty cheap, pretty small. So I was kind of hoping for something a little more substantial, a little beefier, but whatever. It probably works just fine. I'm going to be mounting this onto a couple of boards. I'll show you that in a second, and I'm just going to clamp them down to a table. I want this to be easily removed. I'm not looking to do anything permanent here quite yet. If I do get some live gigs in the future, I might do something a little more permanent, but for now, this will work just fine. So we're going to take these bolts. You got four bolts that are identical. They're pretty short. We've got a bolt, a lock washer, which has the little slit in it, and then a regular washer. We're just going to set those down in here in the legs and hand tighten, and then we'll take and tighten them down the rest of the way with a wrench. So what you will need for this actually is a 1/2 and a 9/16 wrench and the accompanying socket versions. So get those and you should be good to go. So hand tighten. These are actually the 1/2. So we'll take these the rest of the way. That's good. And of course, they have that lock washer on there so that it doesn't back itself out. It should prevent that. Flip this around so I can get to it a little easier. And just the same thing on the other side. Bolt, lock washer, regular washer going onto the back here. There is a little bit of play in these, so if you're pre-marking or pre-drilling holes or anything like that, be sure these don't shift, otherwise you'll shift outside of the holes that you made. I'm not doing that, so I'm not going to worry about it. All right, so now we have that the feet on, and we can move forward. Next thing we're going to grab is the arm that's actually going to hold the screen. This is the part that raises up and down. You do have a brass collet right here where the bolt is going to go through. Collet, is that what that's called? And then it has some grooves that are kind of rounded off over here on this side, and then you've got these two holes here. It is facing up like this. These grooves actually fit straight down into the gate and in between the two bolts that make up the gate here. And so you want to make sure those grooves are facing down, and this bolt pattern is like this here. So we're going to go down into the second hole down here. So you're going to use the only brass bolt that came with this kit. So you put just a washer that fits on it, fit it right through that hole onto the other side, and then the other side you have another washer of the same size and a lock nut. These have the small rubber rings inside of them that prevents it, again, from backing itself off. So this is also a 1/2. So I'm going to put the half onto my socket here. Make sure I'm going forward. You don't have to go super tight. We'll go a little more just to make sure. You want to make sure that lock nut gets on that pretty good. It's got some resistance here, but that's okay. That's going to be just fine. All right, so now let's assemble our gate. We have a few bolts that came for the gate pattern here. We've got 2 of the black plastic bolts, and then a smaller bolt. This actually adjusts the height of the arm whenever it rests on the gate. And so we have an accompanying nut that goes with this smaller bolt, and it's a thinner nut compared to these other 2 nuts. And these go with the plastic bolts. Now, maybe plastic is the best option here for these bolts, but I was kind of surprised. I thought this would be a little better than that. With the Riley Hopkins Jr. press that I had, the 4x4 joystick press, it had black bolts as well, but they were actually metal bolts. And so I'm not sure why plastic was the best option here. Maybe they know something, they obviously know something I don't, but that seems a little cheap. I feel like it would, everything else is metal assembly here. Why not just send metal bolts for this part too? So Ryanette, why? So we're just going to thread these nuts onto these plastic bolts. Be careful threading that on. It's the bad part about plastic bolts. It's easy to cross thread. And then same thing on here. Be careful getting this started inside of here. We're just going to go a little bit. We don't have to be precise just yet. Thread that smaller one onto the height adjustment here, and then the other side of the gate. And we're good. Okay, so we could set this down here and look at the height. So I'm a little high here. I'm just looking for that to be as level as possible. This is the 9/16 adjustment. So if I want to get that to the height that I want, go down a little bit more. That looks pretty good. Doesn't have to be perfect. Tighten that nut down and prevent that from backing its way out. Now, I'm going to step over here so I can see this. Now I'm going to back these nuts off a little bit and get these black bolts just kind of snug up against the arm. And that's going to keep it centered. And then I'll hold the black one still while I thread this larger one, again 9/16, up against the wall there. And that will prevent this black one from backing out. And again, be careful how much you tighten this, because that is pushing against this plastic bolt there. So you could tighten that, if you think it needs to go more, and it could just be eating into the plastic. So, downside of these plastic bolts, again, I'm not sure why that was the best option, but obviously it was. So we're just going to go with it. All right, now we've got the brackets that are going to hold the screen arm itself, or the screen clamp itself. And you can see these fit right in here like this over these 2 bolt holes. And the slant is facing up. As we hold this down, that slant's facing up. What we're going to do on this is we have this extra little piece here, and we have 3 washers instead of 4. So we have 3 washers, 2 nuts, and 2 bolts. And these bolts have this collar on here that just allows it to sit right inside of these holes and spin if needed, but they do get jammed in there. They're not meant to go that far because they have this bracket on there. So if I take and this thing right here is actually going to hold both of the bolt heads. so that I can adjust the screws, because this is going to be our tilt adjustment. So if I hold this one here, I'm going to put this bolt through, and you can see that the head of that bolt just sticks right down in that groove. This one, I need one of the washers. It's going to go right underneath, and then this other bolt goes right over top of it. And you can see this bolt sticks right down inside of that as well. It'll go all the way through, but it'll stick right down inside of that. And if we take now our bracket, do one at a time. Stick that through like that. And then this one, we'll put that washer down underneath. Right like that. And so that's going to hold those two bolts in place the way I need it to. Right like that. Just add the bracket to the other side. Washers to the other side. You should have 2 washers left and 2 nuts. We're just going to hand tighten these because that will be our tilt adjustment later on. So now we'll set that down, and next let's go ahead and get our screen clamp on. I went ahead and threaded these 2 down into here just because it takes a while. So threaded those in. There are some end caps that goes on these. One of them, the bottom piece, is this bolt that has kind of a washer built into it. And this is what clamps down onto the screen itself. And then an additional nut that sticks on top of that. And this prevents that from backing its way off, or from this spinning without, and this staying stationary. This needs to, these need to spin together so that this will actually raise up and down. Otherwise, you'll just be threading this right out of it and it'll fall apart. So we'll get to that. Well, let's go ahead and do it now. Move this around. We'll thread the first nut on there, and then the clamp one. We don't want to go all the way. Leave a little bit of space under there, and then just back it right down onto it. I've got an additional wrench here because I don't have an extra 9/16 to do this with. So get it to 9/16. And those just force right up against each other, and that will prevent that from spinning whenever this spins, or staying stationary when that spins. Okay, same thing over here. Doesn't take much. All right, so now we have that set. I'm going to get these down a little lower. So you see I have these holes right here. These are what's going to hold this onto the platen, or the press arm, and it's going to be our off contact adjustment. So I have these other bolts here. This is actually a threaded area, so it helps to keep these bolts straight whenever you're adjusting your off contact. So might have to move this down out of the way to get that bolt in. Might have been easier to do this first, but that's okay. It does come with good instructions, but I like to not use the instructions when I assemble things. Okay, one side in. And you do have 2 washers. These are going to go on the back side. You don't need washers on this side since it's threaded. It's not going anywhere through this area, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay. So we got that. Sit that on here and go ahead and put these washers. We'll just let them hang and thread the nuts. Oop, maybe. Okay. Just get this close to where I think it might be for off contact, and then we'll finish it up later. This is another 9/16. So when you're finished with all this and you're taking this on location or you're setting it up wherever you're at, you want to be sure you have a 9/16 wrench nearby at all times so that you can adjust the off contact and the tilt, because that's going to be 9/16. Okay, so we've got everything except for our stop bolt here and our springs that actually allow this to move up and down. So we've got those springs here. We've got the stop bolt underneath here. It's already got the little rubber sleeve, rubber tubing sleeve over it. So we'll take that off. But first we're going to add these springs. Now, this says to add this bracket. The instructions say to add this bracket and then add the springs, but it's impossible. So it's unnecessarily difficult to do that. There's no need. Just add the springs first to this. Right like this. And then we've got these two holes that our bolts are just going to sit right down through. These are more bolts with the little collar on the top here. Slide those right in. This just sits right up in those bolts, right like that. Super easy. I don't have to stretch the springs at all. So Ryanette, if you're watching, change your instructions. This is a lot easier this way. And then we'll thread this on. This is 1/2 inch. Where's my 1/2 inch? And I have another side here. So I'll clamp the other side. Okay, got that. Now we're going to pull this down. I'm going to try not to make it slam down. Lastly, you just put this little stop bolt at the top. This just prevents the arm from going all the way up every time because it's going to be very jarring. So we stick this little rubber sleeve through, put the bolt through. We've got a washer on one side, a washer on the other, and our last lock nut. Keep dropping stuff. And these are 9/16. So I'm going to swap out my socket. And again, this doesn't have to be super tight, just enough for that lock washer or that lock nut to grab and really have something to bite into there. All right. So we have everything. The platen that comes with this has already got the clamp or the little clamp on it, or the bracket. I'm actually not going to use this platen because it's huge, and because it's one of the MDF composite platens, and I just don't like them. So I've got my smaller aluminum platens that I had on my other press that I kept when I sold it. These brackets will fit this arm, so I'm just going to use this one, and so we'll fit that onto here and adjust the location of it in a second. First, I'm going to go ahead and just screw this down onto a couple of boards. Nothing special. These are just two 2x6s. Well, these might be 2x8s. And you can see they're kind of warped, but I'm just doing this for now. I'm not going to leave it on here. I just want to show you what a mounting option could be. And so we'll take these screws and a drill. Start in the back. These are self-tapping screws, which is nice. So one good thing about them. Okay, so that's mounted to those good enough. Ideally, this would be one board because those are going to be a little bit flimsy. But what I really was trying to accomplish were my clamps. Was if you do it like this and you just have a table, you're just setting this up somewhere temporarily. just have these so that it extends the brace point out a little bit, and then you can just take and clamp down both sides like this. I'm not going to go through the process because these clamps aren't made for this table, and they don't work well with it because it doesn't have an overhang. But I'll put this on a table at the school and it'll work just fine. All right, and then the reason I'm using this press instead of my DIY press that I still have is just because it holds these larger screens. So the other press was made for the 16 by 20 and not the 20 by 24. So it was going to be a little bit too small, too flimsy. So 20 by 24 frame right there. And we'll set this platen now across this arm. It's going to be a little heavy. I'm going to keep it all the way to the end of the, you can see I've down under here, I've got the end of the platen arm. So that's as far as it can go. So I'm going to tighten up the side bolt first, get that nice and centered, and then tighten up the bottoms. Right like that. So like I said, this is obviously really heavy for this press. I would normally do this on one board, but this is just what I had laying around. Let's see if we can't just clamp it just for... There. All right. Now we can adjust our off contact for this. And you can see the arm kind of hits right there, and this is still loose back here. I didn't tighten that up. Again, 9/16. We'll take and lift this up a little bit. It's really high, but we just want to get it level first. Okay, that's actually pretty good there, and that's pretty sturdy. Now I can tighten these up. And now we can adjust our off contact. What I normally use for off contact adjustments, at least to get me started, it depends on what type of garment you're actually doing. I just take a piece of cardboard, and this cardboard is the ones that come with the, when you order a screen, sometimes they're separated by cardboard pieces, and that's what I'm using here. So if I hold this down like that, hold my finger on this back side, make sure these are equal. It looks like they are. Let's see what that looks like. Not going to tighten it too much, just to kind of hold it in place. There we go. That looks pretty good. So I think that works. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this a little bit more so it doesn't come loose. And now I'm set. Now I've got, obviously this platen only comes to right here on the screen, and normally my platens come to almost the end. And so I need to burn my screen a little lower whenever I burn the artwork for this job. So I'll make sure I do that when the time comes. But until then, this is a great press. I mean, it's just something small and simple. And you know, if you're just getting started, you're in a bedroom or something, it's a great size. If you're not doing huge quantities, it's a great way to start. If you don't already have the DIY kit, you know, that's a great place to start as well. But if you want to go ahead and jump into something that's a little bit more sturdy and can handle the larger frames, I recommend the DIY kit if you're just kind of getting your feet dirty and hands dirty and you know, kind of making sure that you like to do screen printing. If you already know that and you're ready to kind of jump in a little bit deeper to begin with, then this is a great option. It is cheaper than getting something with a rotary, you know, multicolors and stuff. I didn't need the multicolors because I'm doing water-based ink. I'm not going to be printing a multicolor job on location somewhere doing live printing. It's always going to be one color. It's always going to be water-based, so I don't need anything else. If I'm doing multiple prints, I would just assume have 2 stations and do it that way. I might eventually get, if I do more live jobs, I might get into, you know, the 250 just so that I can get the, you know, multiple locations. and that way I can be curing one side while I'm printing the other. But I'm never going to do more than just a one color on a live printing scenario. So wouldn't recommend it either if you're looking into that. So, all right, if you're, like I said, just getting started, it's a great press. I think Ryan has done a good, or Riley Hopkins has done a great job with this one. It's very well made in America, very sturdy. Still don't know about those plastic bolts. I'm sure they'll do the job, they'll get it done, but I feel like there could have been something a little better than that. But whatever, they'll work in the meantime. But anyways, that's it. Easy assembly. I'm looking forward to doing this live printing demonstration. I think the kids are going to love it. They're super excited about it. So I'm excited to teach them more because, as you guys know, I love to teach. So that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it helps get you an idea, even if it's just adjusting the platen on your current press if you have a smaller one like this. Or if you're really wanting to get into this, it's a great one, like I said, to do. I'll link it in the description. Otherwise, hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video.